Okay, class, today we're going to work on literal equations. So make sure if you're looking at your packet, you know where to find this. So in this first one, I see that they want me to solve for x. Remember, it doesn't matter where your variable is. The goal is always to get whatever variable they ask you by itself. So in this case, I want to isolate the x. So in doing so, I notice that I have y equals mx plus b. So I need to undo everything that was done to this x to get it back by itself. So the first thing that I see that I need to do is I need to subtract b. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. And then I'm left with mx equals y minus b. Now I'm going to divide both sides by m. And then once x is by itself, y minus b over m, I know that I'm done. So when we're looking at this next problem, they're asking us to do the same. But this time I want to isolate my a variable. So I know that I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I know I have the Pythagorean theorem. So I know I'm going to take my b over to the other side. Let me go ahead and back up because I want to give you your steps. So I know the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to subtract b squared. Okay, so when I do that, I end up with a squared equaling c squared minus b squared. Well, I understand that I have to undo this operation. The opposite of square is root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So square root is going to cancel square, and I'm left with a equals the square root of c squared minus b squared. Remember to pause the video if you need a moment. So now I'm going to go to the next page, and they're just working those same problems out for you. So here they're asking me to solve, let me clear this right quick, to solve for c in this case. So in order to solve for c, I have to recognize what's over there with the c. In this case, I have the m. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take e equals mc squared, and I'm going to have to divide because this operation here is multiplication. So I'm going to have to divide both sides by m. Once I divide both sides by m, I'm left with c squared equals e over m. And remember, we just talked about what the square root of, the opposite of square is the square root. But there is one thing I realized I didn't tell you on the other side, and I'll deal with that now. So I know that, for instance, let's go over here. I know that the square root of 25 is 5, right? But what I got to recognize is it's 5 because 5 times 5 is 25. But I also got to recognize that negative 5 times negative 5 is also 25. So the square root of 25 would be plus or minus 5. So with that in mind, what do you think that I'm going to put the square root of the other side? It's correct. I got to recognize that it's going to be a plus or a minus. So I understand here that what I'm really going to have is that c is equal to plus or minus the square root of e over the square root of m. So I'm going to do the same here. This time I want to solve for t. Well, you notice t is at the denominator. So first thing I got to do is I got to make t a numerator. So I'm going to take p equals w divided by t. And I got to multiply both sides by t so that I can get t to the top. Once I do that, I'm left with w equals tp. Now, if I want to solve for t, I see now that I just simply got to divide by p. And that's going to leave me t equals w divided by p. Remember to pause your video if you need a moment here. Give me a minute, I'm having technical difficulty. Let's try to switch back. Here we go. Okay, it's just giving you the same thing. Well, now we have two questions that they're asking us. So I recognize now that what they're asking is to write an equation in terms of area when it comes to a triangle. Well, we all know the equation that I'm going to have is area equals 1/2 base times height. So now they want me to solve for the base. So I'm going to take this equation, area equals 1/2 base times height. Now someone's probably saying, wait a minute, Ted, can I also write that as area equals base times height divided by 2? That is correct. I can write it like that. So if I were to write it like that, then I know what? What would be my first step? That's correct. I have to multiply both sides by 2. So the first thing I would do here is I will multiply both sides by 2. So I'm going to rewrite that so it's easier to see. Give me a minute here. My computer has a mind of its own today, but that's okay. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to write it at the top so y'all can see it easier. As area equals base times height divided by 2. So I'm solving for B. So the first thing I'm going to do, like you said, is I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So that gives me 2A equals BH. Now, since I'm trying to solve for B, what am I going to do now? That's correct. I'm going to divide by H. Once I divide by H, I see that my B is by itself, so I'm left with 2A over H. Now, what if I was solving for H? We can see that I'm really going to start off with a part of this same equation, right? I'm going to take it from this step. But because I'm solving for H, once I have 2A equals BH, what am I going to divide by? That's correct. I'm going to divide by B. And so then I have my height, which equals to 2 times A divided by B. Good job. Okay, let's look at the next sheet here. Remember to pause your video if you need more time. And this is just walking you through the exact same thing. So now I have the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. Write the equation in terms of the area. So I'm not going to work this one. I'm going to give you a moment to work this one on your own. So pause your video if you need extra time because I'm going to go and show you the answers.